I suspect that when Bishop Morris J. Dingman, watching us from somewhere in the sweet by and by, realized that Catholic Peace Ministry was going to honor women religious, he turned to whoever would have been around to say, what took him so long? This evening, of course, we honor women religious and their communities who have been at the forefront of work for justice and for peace. How much more than any of us, Morris Dingman appreciated what the women religious gave to not just the church, but to society in general. And he more than appreciated that, but brought so many of you who are here today into very important positions in the diocese. And I know that his appreciation of you was returned manyfold. So perhaps we come full circle tonight as this night in our Bishop Dingman celebration, we honor you and many others like you.
But long before bishops and priests found the courage to speak and act on behalf of peace with justice, women religious were already leading the way. Because it was women religious who first understood the full ramifications and the prophetic implications of the Second Vatican Council. They were the first to connect the dots, to step out from behind their veils and their cloistered walls in order to engage the modern world by bringing our rich Catholic tradition to bear on the pressing social questions of the day. I think they were ready to act because they already, for generations, taught children after children of wave after wave of immigrant people. They were already serving those discarded by the rich and the powerful. And maybe because they had so little power within the institutional church, they were able to fully embrace the winds of change that were blowing through the church. But as we know, powerful forces are now at work in our church, trying to close those windows that were opened by Vatican II and exercise old forms of authority on us and on them, trying to keep us all in line. And so I'm doubly honored tonight to speak in an event which is honoring women religious.
It is my real honor this evening as a member of the Sisters of Humility to introduce to you our Vice President, Sister Johanna Rickel. She's going to receive this award in the name of all women religious.
How I wish that my sister and friend, Sister Mary Dingman, were here to receive this award. That being said, it is indeed an honor and a blessing to accept this award on behalf of the women religious. We women religious really stand on the shoulders of our foremothers and founders, and I say we, I believe I speak for all of us, with very much gratitude in our hearts, thank the Catholic Peace Ministry for thinking of us and for acknowledging the ways that we struggle and work to grow in our own understanding of what it means to be a follower of Jesus, to be a just one, to be a peaceful one, to be one who lives in community and is ready to embrace all. We are here because we all, I think, share those desires and that willingness to continue the struggle. Tom said about our need to create a new narrative. And I think Dave sort of alluded to the fact, or maybe some of us have even noticed, that women in the church might understand a little bit about people who live on the margins and perhaps are not fully acknowledged, or, no, something. It's wonderful to be in a church where it takes all kinds to make a great possibility of communal moving forward. But I think the point that I'm really trying to make here is that we need to be able to recognize and acknowledge the wonderful way that all of us are creating church, are building the reign of God, and God willing, are helping our country to create that new narrative. An interesting thing to me has been that of the people who have gone to visit the Women and Spirit exhibit in Dubuque, and that I've heard from when they return, a phrase that keeps appearing over and over again is, "I had no idea that women religious were involved in." And then they go on to name, well, whether it was the founding of the Mayo Clinic, or perhaps it was some of the early work on DNA, or maybe it was nursing both sides of the soldiers in the Civil War, or it was creating hospitals. There are just so many aspects of our national life that have indeed been profoundly influenced by the service and the ministry of women religious. And it's practically unperceived in general, and in a large part taken for granted, I think. And so I believe that you are doing a civic duty if you go off and visit the Women in Spirit exhibit. We're one little small part of our nation's, what shall I say, least ones, who are exceedingly important in the building up of who we need to be as Americans and who we are as Americans in our best moments. So I think that could be part of our peace ministry, to raise up these stories of all kinds of people, all kinds of communities, any number who are building up a different understanding and a different narrative about who we are, what our values are, what we stand for. So I invite you especially, if you haven't gone to Dubuque yet, by all means go there. That's, as I said, it's one little segment of that big American population that really has done very significant work in, I believe, promoting aspects of peace and justice that draw us closer to that loving community that Jesus calls us to live, and that some of us name the reign of God. That, I believe, is a great work, and it's a work that all of you are involved in. We certainly, as religious, could not have done the things that we did without the countless collaborators that we encountered in our parishes, in our working systems, in our local communities, in our international activities. So I really want to call us all to recognize the force of community. Those of us who are involved in leadership of women religious have had some recent opportunities to recognize the power of solidarity among people who have common values and who are striving to lift up the narrative of who they know and believe that they are in the face of misunderstanding, or perhaps of hanging on to an old definition. I believe that women religious, along with, shall I say, the United States, this group, that group, I think a lot of us are in a phase of transition. And somebody said, America is a work in progress. Well, I really believe we can say the same thing of religious life. And so we need to get that new narrative to be recognized and acknowledged. Many people remember the sisters for many of the services and ministries that many of you grew up with. It's important, too, to recognize that women religious are involved in many kinds of advocacy groups. I think if you look in the center of your little page there, you can read about network and about a lot of other ways that women religious are working for systemic change, as well as working on very concrete needs that are here around us every day. And that could be everything from a child who has no place to go after school to the trafficking of women and children. There's a whole gamut of ministries that women religious are responding to at this time. So it's good for us to know that we can't stop and we can't leave ourselves in our little boxes that we, you might say, have become accustomed to. We have to keep recognizing that there's a forward progression. And in order for us to really be able to achieve the peace and the justice that we want, we need to keep listening. We need to see the reality around us, judge it carefully, and open our hearts to all of those folks, whether we have the exact same understanding or not. But I think that's the only way that the Holy Spirit can kind of grab us by the shirt and say, this way. And I think that's what is probably the key component of any of our work that we have to do. So once again, I thank the Catholic Peace Ministry for all of us women religious who stand in solidarity in this great work that we still struggle to carry forward, shoulder to shoulder with all of you. Thank you so much.
The 2011 Bishop Morris Day Dingman Peace Award, presented to women religious in their communities who have answered God's call to be instruments of peace. Catholic Peace Ministry, April 2, 2011. We do have certificates that we would like to award to all of the religious communities that are here present as best as we can.
Sisters of Charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Congregation of the Humility of Mary. Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. Servants of Mary. Sisters of St. Francis of Dubuque. Sisters of the Presentation. Sisters of St. Francis of Clinton. Sisters of Christian Ministry. Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi, Milwaukee. Benedictine Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica. School Sisters of St. Francis, Milwaukee. Sisters for Christian Community. Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. Sinsinawa Dominicans. Notre Dame Sisters, Omaha Province. The Adrian Dominicans. Sisters of the Holy Cross. Dominican Sisters of Maine.
Peacebringer, come to all hearts at war. Move them to lay down their weapons, to cast aside bitterness and resentment. Bring your peace to hard-hearted ones. Lessen the grip of those who desire revenge. May your peace release whatever binds and free all those held captive by hostility. Amen.
Nation will rise to dance and sing.